The shifter is a pivotal part of your driving experience, and if it feels worn out, imprecise, and sloppy, it robs you from that experience, and you may wish for those movie scene ones that look like this.
Hi. Then you'll want to stay tuned as we install a short shifter on the F30. Let's get into it. What's up everybody, my name is Fritz and welcome to the channel. For those of you who drive a manual transmission, you know it is one of the most rewarding experiences that you can have and helps you be much more engaged when driving your car. This is one of the primary reasons why my dad and I both prefer BMW to most other car brands. Like other car brands that do a manual transmission, the stock shifter leaves a lot to be desired. And yes, it is very comfortable in terms of NVH and very easy to get in and out of gears. But as wear and age come upon these components, there tends to be some slop that develops in the shifter. That slop will also lead to less precise shifts later on, so the simple solution is a refresh kit that will upgrade or replace all the bushings associated with the shifter. We're also going to upgrade the shifter to a short shift kit from Turner Motorsports. And although this job can be a little bit cumbersome because it's in a tight space, you don't really need any specialty tools, but I would suggest having a few different pry bars of different sizes as well as some pick tools are going to make this job much easier. So let's get right into it.
With the car up and supported, remove the rear plastic splash shield by undoing the 8mm screws and twisting it off. With that out of the way, unsecure the 10mm and 13mm bolt holding in the heat shield so you can remove it. No need to lower the exhaust, but you will need to slightly bend this corner to get it over the exhaust. Now we can unsecure the two front shifter carrier clips with a 90-degree pick tool and a pry bar, unless you can squeeze your hand in this area. While you're here, take a look at your selector rod joint. If it looks like this, you'll want to change the shifter shaft seal. Moving on to the selector rod, which connects the joint to the shifter. We have to remove the clips on both ends with our pick tool, allowing the rod to come right out. Jumping inside the car, we can remove the shift knob and boot by lifting on the surround trim before lifting off the knob. The inner weight surrounding the shifter twists right off, and with the help of a pry bar, lift the boot out of the way. This gives us access to the nylon cup that will twist right out. But if it doesn't, as in this case, then use your 90-degree pick tool and insert it in the side portion of the shifter arm in order to help push it out the rest of the way. Going back underneath, remove the rear bushing by wedging your pick tool in the gap and pry it off the bushing on both sides. Slide the carrier out and remove it if you can. In some cases, I've seen people say that they can't get this section out without lowering the drive shaft. So without adding an additional step, I'll be installing it from that position. But if you can, it's much easier if you remove it. To remove the selector rod joint, slide off the locking ring before pushing out the pin. To pick out the shifter shaft seal, I used a small screwdriver combined with the 90-degree pick tool. If yours is fine, you can skip this step by using the chapter section. Place on the new shifter shaft seal with the gold ring going in first, then tap it in with a 16mm socket until you feel it bottom out. That also sounds different. Once it's all sealed up, go ahead and use some brake cleaner to clean the mess from the leak. This next part is also optional, but if your transmission mounts look like this, I would change them now, especially since they have a direct impact on how your shifter will feel once installed. Support your transmission with a jack and remove the two E10s that hold in the exhaust hanger. allowing you to remove the brace after unbolting the 4 13mm bolts, as well as the 13mm on the actual mounts. The white strip is the old one, and the other one has about 30,000 miles on it from the M235i, so it still has some life left. As you can see, the rubber on the one we removed is very worn out. Just align the new mounts to the notch on the brace and secure the nuts to 19 Newton meters. Slide back on the mount and torque to 19 Newton meters as well, which also applies to the E10s. The top 13mm might be hard to torque, so once the jack is removed, you can go hand tight with a wrench. It'll be close enough to 19 Newton meters. The refresh kit will include nylon bushings that will replace the rubber ones at the front of the shifter carrier that can be pushed out with a pry bar. The new nylon bushings will replace them and slip right into place. Before locking anything in, let's lubricate the rear bushing, pin selections of our clips, and selector joint with the silicone-based grease, and be generous here. The new joint along with its new foam might be tough to push in, but just do your best, and once it's into place, slide down that pin and slide over the locking clip. Secure the front clips and ensure you have the clip for the appropriate side before pressing it into place. As for the rear bushing, the rounded end will point to the front while the flat side will face the back. Engage the teeth on one side, then using a pry bar, press in the opposite side. Finally getting onto the actual shifter, where we'll start by assembling the cup components. Going in first is the thinner nylon bushing with the flat side down. Insert it in as even as possible, and it should be very tight. Then with a 24mm socket, gently tap it into place. You should feel it bottom out. Afterwards, it'll look like this. Insert your shifter, followed by the thicker nylon bushing, flat side up. The spring will sit on top of that, and secured by the spring retainer, with its flat side up. Then lock everything into place with the C-clip. Insert the cup into the carrier so that the ears point to the front and the back of the car. The clamp will go underneath and secured by two 6mm screws, and hand tight is fine for this. Double check that it's secured and place in the boot with the arrow facing the front of the car. This one takes a while, and you might need to use a small pry bar to help the boot seal properly around the edges. Once it's in, align the pin on the upper shifter to the lower section and bring it to your desired height. Here I left it at the highest position setting, which is still lower than OEM, and you can always change this later on. Once it's where you want, tighten down the 4mm set screws by hand. And because the metal here is a very tight fit, this step also takes quite a bit of time. Then throw on the shift knob and boot before we head underneath. Insert the selector rod joint with the engaged arrow pointing forward and running along the driver's side. Both ends should guide in easily before you insert the new retaining clips. With it all assembled, we can bring in our heat shield that will start at the bent side first before securing in those 10mm and 13mm bolt, but we'll skip this one for now. Twist on the splash shield and screw on those 8mm and the 10mm that we skipped. Now let's lower the car and see what we have. The stock configuration, we see first gear travel 2.2 inches, second at 2 inches, third 2.2, fourth 2 inches, fifth 2.3, sixth 2.1, and reverse coming in at 2.2 inches, using the middle line of the shift knob as our marker. Once the Turner short shifter has been installed, first gear comes in at 1.5 inches, second 1.3, third 1.4, fourth 1.3, fifth 1.6, sixth gear 1.4, and reverse at 1.6 inches. Now this is only about a 30% reduction at the highest setting, but if you go down to the lower setting, your throw reduction will be even more and closer to that 40% Turner advertises.
And just like that, we've upgraded the shifter on your BMW, leading to more precise shifts and a better driving experience overall. In terms of NVH, I would say it's a touch more than if you were to remove the weight underneath the shift boot, especially when you consider that we're reusing OEM transmission mounts. But if you don't mind a touch more, then I would say go ahead and go with the Rogue mounts. That way your shifts are going to be even crisper. I'm just not sure exactly what my dad would like, so we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But please share your setup in the comment section. If you went with a different shifter, if you went with different transmission mounts, as well as the application that you have your car in. That way we can help out as many people as possible select the right shifter and the right mounts for their car. One thing that does have to go, because my dad doesn't even like it, is this shift boot. Now, he doesn't want all the fanciness of the carbon fiber and Alcantara with the M Performance shift boot, so he went with a different option. The traditional ZHP shifter. Now that's better. In terms of the shifter, I feel it blends the best of drivability and performance, making it the best for daily driven applications. If you have any other questions, please leave it down in the comment section. Resources will be in the description, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos, and I'll see all of you in the next one.